everybody, this is Stitch 1993 here, and welcome back to my channel. And it is Christmas time, or at least it is Christmas time as the uploading this video, because I'm actually recording this in August, middle of August, where it is a nice 80 degrees outside at 9 o'clock at night. That's Georgia for you. But today we are going to be talking about the Rankin Christmas specials, and these are, in my opinion, the top 10 most underrated, most underappreciated, most not so much talked about specials. For those that either lived under a rock or don't live in the U.S., Rankin Company was a more than just two people. It was a whole animation company that made animated specials starting in 1964 with Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and going all the way for 20 years into the 80s, making specials for almost every holiday under the sun, many based off of classical folk Christmas songs, including Frosty the Snowman, The Little Drummer Boy, Santa Claus is Coming to Town, and many others. But some of them gonna get lost in the shuffle when you talk about Rankin Bass. So, of course, the ones I listed off, everybody's heard of, pretty much almost everybody has seen. But I feel the 10 here today on this list are ones that didn't air a lot over the years, or aired very few times. So if you did catch them, it was probably once, maybe twice in your lifetime. Thankfully, they have released, as of last year, the complete Rankin Bass Christmas collection on DVD, which is what I'm using to talk about all these films, because it does include every single one of their 18 holiday films that they made between 1964 and 1985. Of course, some of these are probably ones that you may have heard of, so this is just, as I said in a list before, this is just my personal opinion. Growing up, these are ones it was really hard to find, before the age of streaming. It's really hard to find them on ABC Family or on the Christmas television channels growing up. And so you'd check in the newspaper every week to see if it was going to show, and you highlighted it and circled it. And if you were lucky and you had a DVR or VHS, you made sure that thing was recording it, because you never knew when it was going to be on television again. But thankfully we got this DVDs, so we don't have to deal with that anymore. So, starting off, number 10, Rudolph and Frosty's Christmas in July. I'm pretty sure probably maybe half of you have heard of this one. But if you haven't, this one is one of their summer, I think it's the only summer film that they've done, where it does, Rudolph and Frosty are the main characters, and basically the story is they go to a circus and try to help raise money so that the circus doesn't have to leave and get bought out by this evil bad guy. But as a B story, we get some lore, and this is what I love about this one. This is like the one that goes the deepest into Rudolph's backstory. Yeah, you may just thought that he was a Rudolph that was born with a weird red nose, and that's how that just happened because he was a freak of nature. But no, it's a whole mythical thing. There is a goddess in place that gives her power, and that's why Rudolph has the red nose. And actually, he was a regular reindeer until she came to him. And now there is this evil warlock that wants to steal the power back, but he can only steal it back if Rudolph uses his red nose for evil. Yeah. So, and then on top of all that, this is probably one of the earliest ways of a cinematic universe, because not only are you getting Rudolph and Frosty, but this took place after many of the other ones came out. So to understand and figure out where all these characters come from, of course, you had to watch Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. You had to watch Frosty the Snowman. Then, of course, you had to watch Frosty's Winter Wonderland, which is where Frosty gets married and has a wife. You also had to watch Jack Frost. And you had to watch Rudolph's Shiny New Year because Big Ben shows up. And of course you had to watch Santa Claus is Coming to Town. and A Year Without a Santa Claus, because it uses Mickey Rooney, that was voicing Santa Claus, and I believe both of those. So, yeah, Rudolph and Frosty's Christmas in July is Rankin Bass's Avengers. I said it. Definitely check this one out, and yeah. After this one, I'm probably going to talk about some more lesser known ones. Number 9. 'Twas the Night Before Christmas, released in 1974, based on the poem of the same name. It is about, the night before, or really it's like about a week or month before Christmas, honestly, about this town that is worried that Santa is going to forget about their town. So they hire a clockwork maker to make a special clock that will ring at the sound of midnight as Santa is flying over. And it will be welcoming Santa so that he doesn't forget this town. And you're following the clockworker and then a mouse clockworker that lives in the same house and their family. And the whole story is about him making the clock. One of the mouse's clockmakers, I believe it's his nephew, who really doesn't get the spirit of Christmas and Santa and all that stuff. So he breaks the clock on the official opening day. And of course, by the end of it, he does fix it. And and just like a lot of these Rankin Bass films, it's got some great hits of songs, including Give Your Heart a Try, Even a Miracle Needs a Hand, and of course the Christmas Chimes Are Calling, all which get stuck in my head every December, and sometimes even in August. This is of course one of the few animated Rankin Bass ones, so definitely one of the more interesting ones to check out. Number 8. The First Christmas, the story of the first Christmas snow. So this was an interesting one. I remember it only ever showing on like Sunday mornings. And by Sunday mornings, I mean like 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning. Like you had to wake up early and catch this. Otherwise, you were never going to see it. It is about a boy that is blind and his dog. I honestly only remember watching this one a handful of times growing up, so it's not as memorable as some of the other ones, but it's on this list because of that, because it wasn't shown a lot, and definitely deserves to be checked out. Number 7, Frosty's Winter Wonderland. So this is the direct sequel to the 1969's Frosty the Snowman. This one coming out in almost a decade later, 1976. It is the take on the song Winter Wonderland, where there's a part about Frosty getting married. So this one, he is finding a wife, or I guess he gets built a wife, and there is an evil Jack Frost that feels like Frosty has taken away his thunder. And so he tries to thwart Frosty and Crystal from hooking up, but in the end, Jack Frost has a change of heart, and of course, Frosty and Crystal get married, and it's one of the more interesting stories about Frosty. And as I said, it's one of the ones you got to see before you watch Frosty's. If you Rudolph and Frosty's Christmas in July, otherwise you're going to go straight from Frosty to that one and be like, wait, hold on, when did he get a wife? It was also narrated by Andy Griffith, which is just kind of each one of these stories is narrated by, for the time, one of the bigger actors in show business. So definitely an interesting one to check out, just even for that. Number 6, The Little Drummer Boy Book 2. Now, I'm assuming most of you probably grew up with The Little Drummer Boy. If not, just kind of an overview plot is about a Jewish boy named Aaron who is a shepherd to a mother and father, and he's just having a great life. He has a drum, and the drum causes animals around him to dance and follow him. But one night, thieves come and try to steal their sheep. And so the mom and dad try to stop the thieves, but they get murdered. And so after that, the kid just hates people, every single person. His only friends are the animals. However, he gets caught by this bandit, and because he sees that the boy has these powers with the animals, and so he catches him so he can make him money. And so the little drum boy just kind of goes along with it because he's like, the sooner I do this, the sooner he can leave me alone and I'll be freed. But they all end up at the manger scene at, the birth of Jesus Christ. And so drummer boy plays the drumming song. And, after that, he's like, okay, maybe not everybody is bad, because during all that, the sheep, Samson, gets run over by a cart. But one of the wise men kind of helps bring it back to life, or they don't really say whether it's Jesus that brings the lamb back to life, or the wise man that helps just take care of the lamb. But after that, everything is all hunky dory. And that was back in 1968. Again, almost a full decade later, 1976, there is a sequel, Book 2, where he teams up with one of the Magi again to protect some silver bells to ring for Christ's arrival. It kind of takes almost right after the first one. So you could watch them pretty much back to back, and it'd be just one continuous story. And of course, he has to deal with some of the same stuff from the previous one again. Some of the same characters show up there, so it's not more of the same, but it's just more of the Little Drummer Boy. So if you enjoyed the Little Drummer Boy, you'll most likely enjoy Little Drummer Boy Book 2. Number 5, Nestor, aka Nestor the Long-Eared Donkey. So this is a story about the donkey that Mary and Joseph, or Mary rides and Joseph, pulls along to take them to Bethlehem. And man, is this probably one of the darker specials they did, because Little Drum Boy has murder, which on that of course is dark by itself, but this one has animal abuse and death, and it shows both of them like in a lot of detail, which I'm like, even when I was little watching this, it was definitely a bit disturbing. I don't know how they got away with some of this stuff. I guess it was like, oh, it's animated, so it's not too bad. But you definitely feel for Nestor in this, and all the setbacks he has to deal with along the way. But it ends up good for Nestor in the end. So it ends up on a happy note. But wow. Or if you really don't like seeing animals, especially cute animals, get hurt, you might want to skip this one. And this is probably why it didn't show a lot on television growing up, just because of all that imagery that is shown. There's no like blood, but there is death, and it is it's a very sad death too. So definitely just a forewarning going into that one. Number 4, Jack Frost. Again, I feel like maybe half of you guys are aware of this one and grew up with this one. And this did show a good bit, at least when I was growing up. This one did show up a good bit on ABC. But I feel like it keeps getting forgotten, and it's just one that's just got such an interesting take, because this is the only one that is steampunk. It is a steampunk Christmas special because yeah, the bad guy, Krupa Khan, all his creatures are like clockwork soldiers and a steam powered horse. And of course, it's a take on the song, the Christmas song, Jack Frost nipping on your nose, which he does do. And it is about the titular character, Jack Frost, who during like early, I think it's in the 18 or 1700s or however, Jack Frost is an immortal being, but he sees a lady that he becomes infatuated with, and he goes to the great cloud keeper in the sky, and he's like, "Hey, I want to be mortal and marry that woman." And the guy is hesitant at first, but he's like, "Okay, you only have 3 days to do so, and you have to get a house, get a horse, and get the wife within 3 days." Not the best plot to have for a Jack Frost story, in my opinion, but what makes up for it is all the creatures and designs of the characters, and that in the villain's probably one of the more interesting villains, because he's lonely, so nobody really wants to work for him because he's such a bad dude. So even his army is steampunk robots. He even has this little ventriloquist dummy that he named Dami, that he talks to, or it talks to him. So yeah, it's conversations with himself, and it's just a wonderful just piece of animation, just for all that alone, just for all the creature designs. And I still quote to this day the song. It's just what I always wanted. Because it's just a fun song to sing. Plus, it's a nice moral to have, even when you don't have any money around Christmas time. But definitely give this one a check out. Number 3, Pinocchio's Christmas. This is just the story of Pinocchio, but it's based during Christmas time. That's it. It's just about he gets built. He's a kid. He's told to go to school, but instead he goes to the puppets, puppet stage, and he gets, the fox and the cat get on him, and of course he's got the Jiminy Cricket, or talking cricket, and the blue fairy, and all the stuff that goes into a Pinocchio story, but takes place during Christmas time. That's pretty much it. Nothing special about it. It's just, one of the more interesting ones to talk about. Just because it's one of the few, actually one of the only ones that's more based off a fairy tale, or previously made book, and not based off of just a song or a lyric in a song. It's still a very fun one, and I love the Pinocchio design. Honestly, out of all the adaptations of Pinocchio, this is probably my favorite. So just for that alone, definitely check this one out. Number 2, The Leprechaun's Christmas Gold. What's interesting, I feel, about this one is this is the only one that doesn't have a Wikipedia page. Be that as it may, this is one I feel gets talked about probably almost the least, because it is an Irish Christmas folklore story. And it's not really based off of any song or anything. It's based off actual folklore about banshees and about the leprechaun's gold, and it goes into the story pretty well. I'm not really going to spoil anything, but it is about an Irish sailor that gets stranded on an island. He meets leprechauns, and he tries to help with protecting their gold from a banshee. It does have one of the few Irish Christmas songs in it, Christmas in Killarney, which is played beautifully in my opinion. But yeah, it is the one of the more really interesting ones. Definitely, as I said with all these, definitely check it out. Number 1. Not only is this the last film they ever made, but it is one of the few that is based off of a book. This is The Life and Adventures of Santa Claus, based on the book of the same name written by L. Frank Baum. and it is kind of a different take on the lore of Santa Claus. So, in most of the Rankin Bass stories, Santa Claus is raised by elves, by the Kringles, but in this, he's raised by Lioness and her pups, and so and then all these other gods and goddesses of the forest world go about raising this child so that he learns to be all of good, to be what would be Santa Claus. And the whole story is like, it takes place after Santa Claus is an adult, and they have to decide whether, because he is mortal, they have to decide whether he should become an immortal just because of all the good that he's done, because he's giving out presents for free every year. But they do understand that his time is short on the earth, but if they give him the power of immortality, he will be able to continue to do this throughout forever. And I'm just going to leave it at that. It goes into a lot of very interesting creatures and stories and stuff. Just like like you would expect from Al Frankbaum. And yeah, so that is, in my opinion, the top 10 most underrated Rankin Bass Christmas specials. Tell me in the comments down below, which ones do you feel are not talked about much? They don't even have to be Rankin Bass films. Just what do you think are underrated Christmas films? I did do a video last year of my top 10 underrated Christmas films, and I'll probably do another one again maybe next year. Who knows? So definitely check that one out, and let me know what your thoughts were on this list and which ones you agree or disagree with, which ones you think I should have added or kept out, and which ones did you grow up with, of course. And until next time, thank you and have a good day. Goodbye.